Let's talk about database queries. So in a relational database, I'm sure you're aware, all operations, which is read or write or anything else, is handled through queries. And these queries are routed through some JDBC, ODBC, other kind of mechanism. So ZOAPIIO does the same. Any table operation that you do, which is read or update, it's internally routed through some queries which go through the database connection and everything. But a database level operation is quite simplistic from a real life application perspective. What if your application requires you to have complex queries like join multiple tables or use other SQL features like group functions, and a lot of other functions which a typical application would require you to have. So that's where ZOAPIIO's database query comes in. So here, let's take a look. We have two tables here. I go here, and here I say add database query. Now, a query can be an update query. If you check this, you can do an update, or by default, it's just the select or the read query. Now, you can just type in any SQL here. And there's a little helper available here. You can drag and drop a table here. So it's going to just start writing the SQL for you. And you can drag and drop the second one. So it'll create a join, right? Now, you will have to provide the on and other details and filters and everything. But it does give you an initial structure to start with. But of course, you're not bound by this. You can just type your own SQL. And you do need to know SQL if you want to use this feature. Now, this is an incomplete query, but I just want to show you how it works. If you try this, it'll fail because it's not a complete syntax. So just like a relational database, we support query parameters, which means while calling this query, you can pass parameters from outside. So for example, let's say I have something like user ID. You pick a data type, because let's say, for example, number, which is same as integer, and you create. There's a very interesting feature which I should point out right now is that it has the replace inline option. So in a standard SQL query, when you pass parameters, those parameters can take the place of values appearing in your SQL, right? Such that you can say, for example, certain column name equals a value, and that value can be passed as a parameter. But this goes a step ahead, and it allows you to even insert SQL phrases and parts of SQL statement from outside, and which is handled by replace inline. What this means is any value, for example, if I check replace inline, then the value I pass to this from outside will be replaced inline into the SQL, even if it contains SQL keywords. Okay, this is an interesting feature which you can use for writing really complex queries. You can write fully dynamic queries, create them programmatically, and just pass it here into the as a replace parameter. How to use this parameter inside the query? So inside the query, the syntax is the same as for SQL. For example, you can say for a.id equals b.id, whatever. I don't even know if these columns exist, just for example. And I can say where a dot name a dot user ID equals and a question mark. So this means is that the question mark would be substituted with the first parameter, and in the order the question marks appear in the query. So you have to be careful. The sequencing of the declaration of query parameters is important, because the first one, irrespective of what name it is, it will go to the first question mark in your query, and so on. And if if the query parameter is a replace parameter, it will be replaced. Otherwise, it will be passed as a parameter to the SQL engine. Like you would, if you've done database programming, you know how parameters are passed to the queries. Okay, so now once you're done with everything, you created this. Now you need to declare every column that you are selecting from this query must be declared. You know from our schema lesson is that schema needs to be declared. So what is another helper here, which says fields list. So it's going to retrieve all the fields or all the columns that appear in your SQL, and you don't have to create them one by one. So just this is my query, this is my parameter, these are my select output columns, and there we go. This is ready. Now I can just use it in my program. So how do I use it? I'll just create a routine to use this. You just again take this query and you drag and drop it into this, and you get a skeleton. So it's simple. You would first assign values to all the parameters that are in your query. If you don't assign, the query will fail. And if your SQL has a syntax error, also it will fail. Okay, so sometimes it's a little bit of a you have to just touch and feel and make it work. So, for example, I can say 100. And after that, you do open query and you iterate over the query, and you in each loop you would get one result row from the record. And that's it. So the column names are also filled in for you. You can do whatever you want with it. And when you're done, you can just close. So this is how you declare and use queries or RDBMS queries on your tables in a ZOAPIIO program. So that's all about database queries. Thank you.